Hello everyone, welcome to the video. Today this is tutorial 2 of how to make a digital clock with the Arduino. And so in this video we're going to be upgrading the digital clock that we made in our last video, and we'll upgrade it so that we can set the time manually with just the LCD display and 2 buttons. So we don't need to upload the current time inside of the code because we can just adjust it manually. And so this is the circuit. And this is somewhat similar to the last circuit that we went over in our last video. The only thing that's different here is that we have 2 buttons here that we added to the circuit. Everything else on the circuit is the same from last video. So if you haven't watched the last video, consider going back and looking at that, because I'm not going to explain the whole circuit. I'm just going to explain what we have added to the circuit. And so we have added these 2 buttons. One of the buttons is going to be connected to pin 7 on the Arduino. We're not going to need to use a pull-up or pull-down resistor because we're going to activate the pull-up resistor in the Arduino. I'll show you how to do that in the code. And then the other side of the button is going to be connected to ground. Same thing with this one. It's just one side of the button is going to be connected to pin 6, and the other side is going to be connected to ground, or the ground rail on the breadboard. And so basically that is the circuit there, and so go ahead and connect that up, and then we'll go and look at the code. Okay, so now here's the code for this project, and here we have added a little bit more code from our last videos. We just have added things to this code to, improve it and stuff like that, so that's what we're going to go over. And so certain parts I'm not going to explain in detail because I've already explained it in the other tutorial or the other video I made before. And so the first thing we've added is we have put our pin numbers that are connected to our buttons into variables. So 7, which is representing pin 7, is going to go into the variable button 1. And then we have another one defined, button 2, and we're going to be putting the value 6 in there, which represents pin 6. And so then we come down here and we have a couple of integers, unsigned longs, and stuff like that. We are just defining some variables. And so the first thing we do here is we do button 1 state new. It's going to be holding the newest value that we get from button 1. So button 1 is going to be giving us a value of a 0 or 1, and this is going to be, this variable right here is going to be holding the newest value that button 1 gives us. Then we have int button 1 state old. So this is going to be the previous value that button 1 was giving us. And so then why do we do this? Why do we have this state new and state old? Well, it's so that we can detect right when we press the button. And so we just have to know, if we know what the previous value and the new value is. If the previous value and the new value are not equal to each other, then we know we have just pressed the button or just let go of the button. Okay, and we do the same thing with button 2. We have button 2 state new, button 2 state old. And so basically it's just the same thing, but we have to have them for the different buttons. So we have to have each button have its own variables. And so that's what we have for button 1, and we have them both for button 2 as well. Okay, then we have toggle state 1 and toggle state 2. So you're going to see later on in this code what we're using these variables for. But right now we're just setting them to nothing. We're just saying that we're going to be using them, and later on you see how we use them. And then we have unsigned long last debounce time 1 and unsigned long last debounce time 2. And so this variable is going to be holding a millis value. That's why it's unsigned long, because a millis, whenever we get a millis value, whenever we're storing it or using it, that value that we are getting from the millis function is an unsigned long. That means we need to store these variables in unsigned long variables as well. So what these variables are going to be holding is, it's going to be holding the millis value of right when we pressed the button, so that we know how long we need to wait until we can go and read it again and bypass the bounce time. And so that's what these variables could be doing, and we have 2 of these again because one's for button 1 and one's for button 2. And then we have the bounce delay, and so basically this is going to be holding how long we'll be waiting for that debounce problem to pass. And so we just need to wait 50 milliseconds, not long at all. And so it's just going to be a constant because we're not going to change it. So this variable is going to stay the same. And so yeah, that's what we did there. And then we have blink state. So this is going to be showing us the state of the blink on the LCD display. So whenever we move over to a mode, as we press the button, we move over which number we want to change. If that's hour, minutes, or seconds. Whenever we switch over, it's going to blink the number of which one was set on, if we're set on hours, minutes, or seconds. And so we have to know what state we are at with blinking that thing. So 1 means it's on, and -0 and -1 means off. So it's going to be switching from 1 to -1, and it's going to switch back and forth, and that's going to be blinking the number that we are currently setting our mode to. And then right down here we have int modes, so this is going to be holding the modes. We have 4 modes. One, mode 0, which is nothing, we're not going to be doing anything, and then mode 2, which is the hours, so we're going to be blinking the hours whenever our mode is set at 1. And then mode 2 is for the minutes. We're going to be blinking minutes whenever we are set to 2. That means we're going to be wanting to change the minutes. Then 3 is the seconds, and so we're going to be blinking the seconds if we are at mode 3. And whatever mode we're at, it's going to be blinking, and it's going to tell us that we're at this mode, and we can press the other button and change the time. So this we have already gone through. We just set the time. We don't really need that because now we're changing it manually with the LCD display and the buttons, but we still have it here. And so then we have unsigned logs. We set up the last minutes. I've already explained all of this, and so we just set up all the pin numbers for the LCD display and all that. And then we come into the void setup. We set up our LCD display, and then we do some pin modes. So we do pin mode button 1, input pull up. And so basically, we're just saying that we're going to be using button 1, and it's going to be an input and an underscore pull up. This is going to activate the pull up resistor that is on the Arduino, so that we don't have to incorporate a pull up resistor or pull down resistor in our circuit. And we do the same thing with a button 2. We say input pull up, which is activating the pull up resistor that is connected to that pin. And so then we go into the void loop, and we do button 1 state new equals digital read button 1. So basically we're going to be reading whatever value the button 1 is giving us, so that's 1 or 0. And then we're going to be putting that value into button 1 state new. So we're going to be reading the newest value from the button and put into button 1 state new. Same thing with down here. We do button 2 state new equals digital read button 2. So we're going to be reading from button 2 and put it into this variable. And so then we'll go ahead and come in here and say if millis minus last millis. So basically this is going to give us how long we've been out of this if statement. And if it's greater or equal to 1,000 milliseconds, then that means we can come in here. So it's the Arduino terminator is gonna come in here every single second, and it's gonna increase seconds, or it's gonna increment seconds down here. Okay. So basically, what's gonna happen is it's gonna come and it's gonna hit this if statement, and it's gonna say if seconds is equal to 59, they come into this if statement. But if it's not, then that means that obviously it's lower than 59. So then we'll come into this else statement because that's not true, and we'll come in here and increment seconds. But if seconds is 59, then that means we need to go ahead and increment the minutes because, well, now we are adding another second. That means 60, and so now 60 seconds is a minute, and so we want to come into this if statement and make seconds equal to 0 because now we have rolled over, and now we want to go ahead and add 1 to minutes. And so then we come in here and we say if minute equals 59, then come in this if statement. But if it's not equal to 59, then it's obvious it's going to be lower than 59, so we can go ahead and just increment minutes. And so we'll come in here, down here, and we're going to else if this statement up here is not true, then come into this else statement, and we'll come in here and increment minutes. But if this is true, then that means we are now at 60 minutes, and we want to go ahead and increment hours. So we come into this if statement and we make minutes equal to 0 because, well, yeah, minutes is equal to 0 now because we are incrementing hours. So we set that back to 0, and then we say if hours equals 24, which means it's the maximum amount of time we have, which is 24 hours until it rolls back over to 1. So if this is the case, they come into this if statement. If it's not, they come in here and add 1 to hours. But once it's 24, then we'll come in here and set hours equal to 1. And so then we need to set the millis value back to 0 because as you know, as long as the Arduino keeps on running, the bigger this number gets, and eventually it gets too big that it has to overflow in like 49 days or something like that. And so our program just overflows it automatically every 24 hours. And so that's what it does here. We just overflow it, and we make millis equal to 0. But when we make it equal to 0, we also have to make these other values equal to 0 as well, which is last millis, the last time we were in this if statement. And we need to set that to 0 milliseconds because obviously we're in this if statement now, we're about to get out of it, so we need to set it to 0 milliseconds. And then last to bounce time 1 needs to be equal to 0 as well, and last to bounce time 2 needs to be equal to 0 as well. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start scrolling down. And so then we have the system right here, and this is for blinking what number we are at. So what we do here is we say if mode does not equal to 0, which means it's going to be on mode 1, 2, or 3, has to be on one of those to come to the if statement, and blink state equals -1. So if this is the case, we need to come into this if statement. And so then we do switch, but we're using the switch statement here, and we're going to use it with modes. So we're going to be using modes for the switch statement. And so case, basically, if modes equals 1, then come into this case statement. Okay, so if we're at mode 1, then we come into here, and mode 1 is the hours. So we need to be blinking the hours. We're at the hours mode. And so we go here and do print on LCD. This is a function, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this function real quick. It's pretty simple. Just scroll down over here, all the way to the bottom, and we have void print on LCD, and we have string owl. This is just saying that we're going this value is going to be a string. Okay, whenever we give it to this function, so it knows it's a string, and so hours. Then we give it the minutes, and then we give it the seconds. They're all going to be strings. That's why we put strings in front of them, telling the Arduino ID that they're all strings. And then we just come in here and we print on the LCD. And we use these variables, as you can see up here, which is hours, minutes, and seconds. Right here. Okay, and so that is the function. So then we're going to come back up here. Okay, and so now we're going to give it the variables that function is requesting, which is hours, minutes, and seconds. So what we're going to do here is we're going to give hours nothing, because if we set up the hours mode, we want to go ahead and turn off the hours. Okay, because one thing, a part of blinking, you have to turn it off and turn it on. So right now we want to turn it off. Okay, and so we're going to make it equal to empty string. We're just going to take away the text of owl so that it will look like it's off. And then we're going to give it the other values, which is minutes and seconds. And we have strings because these are integers right now, and we want to turn them into strings because, as I said, the function is expecting strings, so we have to convert these into strings as well. And so we'll go ahead and convert them into strings, and then we can give them to the function. And the same thing with here with the seconds. So then if the mode is set to 2, then that means we're at minutes, and we want to go ahead and blink and turn off the minutes. So what we do is we do print on LCD, we'll give it the hours, and then we give it an empty string for minutes because we want to turn off the minutes. And so then we give it the seconds as well. And so then we have if mode is equal to 3, then that means we're at seconds, and we want to go ahead and blink the seconds. So we do print on LCD, we give it the hours, we give it the minutes, but we give it an empty string for the seconds. And so then we break out of this case statement, as we do in all of these, because when you have case statement, you always have to break out of it. So that's just there. You always have to have it there when you want to get out of the case statement. So we just have a break. And so we have default. We just break right out of this. We're never going to use this default. It's just there just because. But yeah, that is that. And so then we have this else statement. So if this is not true, if we are either at mode 0 or at blink state 1, we need to come into this else statement. Okay, and we need to give print on LCD all of its values, which is hour, minutes, and seconds. Okay, so this is going to go ahead and print everything out. So it's either this is not, we're not going to be doing anything, we're not blinking any of the values, which is the hours or the seconds or the minutes, or we are simply on the on part of our blink. Okay, and so that is when we come into here. So then we're about to get out of this if statement right here, but before we do that, we have to set last millis, and we have to set it equal to millis, because now that's the last time we have been into this if statement. We're about to get out of it, so we need to make that equal to millis. And then we need also make blink state equal to blink state times -1. So basically, we're just reversing what the value is on blink state. So if blink state is equal to 1, then it's going to be -1. If it's equal to -1, then it's going to be +1. So it's going to be switching back and forth to -1 to +1 every single time we come to this statement. Okay, so now we're coming to this statement. So now we're going to start doing things with these buttons when we press them. And so this is what this code is for. Whenever we press these buttons, we need to do things with them. And so that is what this if statement is going to be doing. And so now the first thing we need to do is we need to detect when button 1 is being pressed, right when it gets pressed, okay? So that we know how long we need to wait until we read it and make sure that the bounce issue is passed. And so if button 1 state new equals 0 and button 1 state old equals 1, that means we have just pressed the button, because if our previous value was 1 means we're not pressing the button, and our new value is 0, that means we have just pressed the button. Okay, if that's the case, if we just press the button, we come in here and we say last bounce time 1 equals millis. So basically what we're doing is we're getting what the millis value was at right when we pressed the button. So now this is going to be equal to the time when we press the button. Okay, and then we make toggle state 1 equal to 1. So basically the same, we've been in this if statement, we're ready whenever the time 50 milliseconds passes, we're ready to do something with this action when we press the button. So then after that, we come out of this if statement, that's all we need to do, and we say if millis minus last bounce time 1, basically it's going to give us the value of how long since we have been in this if statement right here. Okay, and if that value is greater than the bounce delay, which is 50 milliseconds, they come into this if statement. And so after 50 milliseconds of coming into this if statement, we're going to come into this if statement. And 50 milliseconds should be enough time for the bounce issue to have been passed, so we don't have that issue anymore. We shouldn't, at least. And so if this is true, then we'll come into this if statement and say if button 1 state new equals to 1, basically meaning if we're still pressing after 50 milliseconds, and toggle state 1 is equal to 1, they come into this if statement. So if we are still pressing the button after 50 milliseconds and toggle state is still equal to 1, which means we haven't gone into this if statement before, since we have pressed the button, they come into this if statement. And then whenever we come to this if statement, we're gonna do if modes equals to 3, meaning if we are at our last mode, which is mode 3, then we are going to go ahead and make modes equal to 0, because we're basically rolling over. We don't have a now higher mode. We don't have mode 4, so we have to go back to mode 0. But if this is false, then we'll come into this else statement and increment modes and go to our next mode. After that, we just make toggle state equal to 1. So this is just telling us that we have been in this if statement since we have pressed the button. So now we need to let go of the button and press it again to come back in to this if statement, because toggle state will not change to 1 again right up here until we press the button, and we let go and press the button again. So that's what we do here. And so this is the same thing that we did up here, right here, but now we're just doing for button 2. So we'll just do button 2 state new equals 0 and button 2 state old equals 1, then come into this if statement and we make it last bounce time 2 equal to millis, and we set toggle state 2 equal to 1, and we just kind of come out of this if statement. We do the exact same thing, but when we come into this if statement right here, we do the switch function right here, and we do modes. We are now going to see what mode we are at, and whatever mode we're at, we're going to increment that value. And so we'll come in here and say if mode is equal to 1, then that means hours. So because mode 1 is hours, so we'll come in here and say if hours equals 24, then make hours equal to 1, because we can't increment hours any more than 24. We had to go back to 0 if it's 24. But if this is not the case right here, then we'll go ahead and go into this else statement, and we go ahead and increment hours. And so that's all we need to do, and then we go ahead and break. After then we have case 2. So basically if mode's equal to 2, then that means minutes. And then we'll come into this case statement, and we say if minutes equals 59, then come into this statement and make minutes equal to 0. But if this is not the case, then we go ahead and go into this else statement and go and increment minute. And then we break out of this case statement. And then if modes is equal to 3, that means seconds. And now we're going to be doing something a little bit different for seconds. So we're going to say while true, okay, we'll come into this while statement, and we're going to read button 2 state new equals digital read button 2. So we're going to be reading from button 2 in this if statement constantly, okay? And so then we're going to be in this while loop, constantly looping, constantly reading this button until if button 2 state new equals 1. And so if button 2 state new is equal to 0, then we're not going to come into this statement, okay? And we're not going to come into this statement and make seconds equal to 0 and break out of this while loop. So as long as we are pressing this button, we are not coming out of this while loop. We're going to wait until we let go of the button, and when we let go of the button, we'll come into this if statement, we'll make seconds equal to 0, and we're going to break out of this statement. And so why do we do this? Well, this makes it so that we can actually not have to increment seconds, but actually just press it and wait until, like, if we're watching a watch or a computer, right when the minutes changes, then we can let go of it and it's set to 0, so that we don't have to increment and have issues trying to get the seconds just right. And so that's what this statement does right here. Hopefully that's understandable. And so then all we do is we come in here and make button 1 state old equal to button 1 state new, and then button 2 state old equal to button 2 state new. And so basically all this is doing is giving the old values the new values, because now those new values are becoming old as we're about to loop this void loop and update these button 1 state news variables. And as you can see, I've already explained about this function. So basically that is the code. So now we'll go ahead and look at our project. Okay, so now here is the project, and as you can see, we have our hours, minutes, and seconds right here. And so all I have to do is press this to move over the modes. And so right now it is already around 4:30 almost. And so we'll go ahead and click this to go to the modes. We'll click this and our hours start blinking. And so now we want to go ahead and go to 4 o'clock. And so that is 16. And so we'll go ahead and start pressing our second button, which increments the value that is at the current mode, which is mode 1, which is hours. So we're going to increment the hours, which right now hours is equal to 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and keep on pressing, and the hours is going to continue increasing. You see 7, 8, and so I'm going to go quickly increment up to 16. And so almost there, and now that's 16. Okay, so now we're at 16. That's 4 o'clock. And so now I'm going to go ahead and press this button 1 to go to the minutes now. And so I'm going to go ahead and press the minutes. And so now we are blinking the minutes. And so now I'll go ahead and increment the minutes. As you see, the minutes are going up. And I want to go up to 32. So I'm going to go up real quickly. There we go. At 32. Then we'll go to switch over to a mode to the seconds. I'm going to wait till my computer goes to 33, and then we will go ahead and let go of this button. So I'm going to go ahead and press it, and it's going to stay still. The whole thing is going to freeze until our computer is at this correct time, which is 16:33. We have 1 more minute to wait until it switches to 33, and once it switches to 33, I'll go ahead and let go of it, and the minute's set to 0, and the whole thing is set. And the Arduino will be able to keep up with this time. And so basically that is the project. If you like this video, consider giving this video a like. Also comment down below if you have any questions, and consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all and have a great day. Bye.